Take your things and leave. Patricia screamed, throwing my clothes into black garbage bags. Amanda needs this room now. You've overstayed your welcome. I stood in the doorway of what had been my bedroom for the past year, watching my mother-in-law destroy the life I'd built while my husband served overseas. This is my house too, I said quietly, my hands steady despite the storm raging inside me. Michael and I. Michael isn't here. She cut me off, her face flushed with anger. And while he's away, I'm in charge. Amanda needs a proper space now that she's back from college. You're just the wife. She's his sister. Blood comes first. I watched as she continued ransacking my room, throwing my carefully organized belongings into bags like they were trash. My name is Sophie Anderson, and at 26, I was being kicked out of my own home by my mother-in-law while my husband Michael served in the military overseas. Patricia had never approved of me. To her, I was the girl who'd stolen her precious son away, the outsider who didn't deserve to be part of their perfect family. When Michael was deployed 8 months ago, she'd moved in to help. But her true intentions became clear soon enough. Mom, are you sure about this? Amanda's voice drifted in from the hallway. She stood there in her designer clothes, feigning concern while barely hiding her satisfaction. At 22, she'd always been the princess of the family, and having me in what she considered her house had been a thorn in her side. Of course I'm sure. Patricia snapped, tossing my books into another bag. Sophie needs to learn her place. This house has been in our family for generations. She's just temporary, you're permanent. I felt my throat tighten at her words. If only they knew the truth about the house, about the conversation I'd had with Michael's grandfather James before he passed away last year. But I held my tongue, remembering his words. Timing is everything, Sophie. Let them show who they really are first. My phone buzzed. A message from Michael. Hey love, sorry I missed our call. Signal's bad here. Hope everything's good at home. Love you. My heart ached as I thought about telling him what was happening, but I couldn't. He needed to focus on staying safe, not worrying about family drama back home. I'll leave, I said finally, my voice calm. But you should know. Save your threats. Patricia interrupted, zipping up the last bag. Amanda deserves this space more than you ever did. You have an hour to get out, or I'm calling the police. I nodded, picked up my bags, and walked out without another word. As I loaded my car, I could hear them upstairs, already planning how to redecorate Amanda's new room. The satisfaction in their voices made my stomach turn. That evening, I checked into a small hotel on the outskirts of town. Sitting on the bed, surrounded by garbage bags containing my life, I pulled out the envelope I kept hidden in my jacket. Inside was the property deed to the house, signed over to me by Grandpa James 6 months before he died. They never appreciated this place, he told me during our last conversation. Patricia and Amanda treat it like a status symbol. But you, Sophie, you love it for what it is. You remind me of my late wife. That's why I'm leaving it to you. Just wait until the right moment to tell them. Some lessons need to be learned the hard way. I traced my fingers over his signature, remembering how he'd been the only one who'd welcomed me into the family without judgment. He'd seen through Patricia's perfect mother act and Amanda's innocent daughter facade. He'd known exactly what would happen when he was gone. Opening my laptop, I emailed Michael's Aunt Julia, a lawyer who'd helped Grandpa James with the property transfer. It's time, I wrote. They've shown their true colors. Her response came quickly. I've been expecting this. Come to my office tomorrow. We'll handle everything legally and properly. They won't know what hit them. I looked around the hotel room, allowing myself a small smile. Patricia and Amanda thought they'd won, thought they'd finally gotten rid of the unwanted outsider. They had no idea that in 6 months, once all the legal proceedings were complete and Michael was back home, they'd learn exactly who owned their precious family house. For now, though, I would wait. I'd let them redecorate, let them think they'd succeeded in pushing me out. Sometimes the best revenge isn't immediate. It's carefully planned, perfectly timed, and absolutely legal. My phone buzzed again. Another message from Michael. Just got a weird text from Amanda about redecorating her new room. What's going on? I replied simply, don't worry about it, love. Everything's under control. Stay safe and come home to me. And it was under control, just not in the way his mother and sister expected. The next 6 months passed in a carefully orchestrated dance. I moved into a cozy apartment across town, started a new job at a local art gallery, and watched from afar as Patricia and Amanda turned my home into their personal showcase. Through mutual friends, I heard about every change they made. Amanda had painted over the vintage wallpaper Grandpa James's wife had chosen decades ago. Patricia had replaced the antique light fixtures with modern chandeliers. They even started renovating the old library, turning it into what they called the social media room for Amanda's growing influencer career. Each change felt like a personal attack, but I stayed quiet. Julia, Michael's aunt, assured me everything was proceeding according to plan. The court date is set for next month, she told me during one of our weekly meetings. The property transfer paperwork is ironclad. James knew exactly what he was doing. My phone lit up with a text from Michael. Coming home in 2 weeks, love. Mom's acting weird about where you're staying. What's really going on? I'd been vague about the situation in our communications, never wanting to burden him with the truth while he was serving. But now, with his return approaching, it was time to be honest. I called him using the secure line he'd set up for important conversations. Sophie, his voice, even through the static, made my heart skip. Talk to me. What's happening back home? I told him everything, how his mother had thrown me out, how Amanda had taken over our room, and finally, about Grandpa James's gift. There was a long silence on the other end. Grandpa left you the house. Michael's voice was a mixture of surprise and something else. Pride, maybe. That actually makes perfect sense. He always said you were the only one who truly appreciated it. Are you angry I didn't tell you sooner? I asked, holding my breath. No, he said firmly. You were protecting me, letting me focus on my mission, just like you protected the house by waiting to reveal the truth. My mother and sister, they've shown their true colors, haven't they? They have, I agreed softly. The court date is set for 3 days after you return. Julia's handling everything. Michael's laugh was warm through the phone. Julia's involved. Oh, Mom's going to hate that. She's never been able to manipulate my aunt. We talked for another hour, making plans for his return. For the first time in months, I felt completely at peace with what was coming. A week before Michael's return, I drove past the house. Patricia had hired landscapers to tear out the heritage rose garden Grandpa James's wife had planted. In its place, they were installing a modern water feature, something Amanda had seen on a home renovation show. Patricia spotted me driving by and her face twisted into a smug smile. She probably thought I was torturing myself, watching them transform what had once been my home. If only she knew. The day Michael returned, I picked him up from the airport. He looked tired but happy, his eyes lighting up when he saw me. We embraced for a long moment, making up for months of separation. Ready to go home, I asked, a slight smile playing on my lips. Not to that house, he said firmly. Not until everything's sorted. We'll stay at your apartment. When we drove past the house, Patricia and Amanda were outside, putting up a welcome home banner. They waved frantically, but Michael didn't stop. Their faces as we drove by were priceless, confusion turning to anger as they realized their perfect homecoming wasn't going according to plan. Mom's called 6 times already, Michael said, checking his phone as we entered my apartment. She's demanding to know why we didn't stop, why you've corrupted me against the family. He rolled his eyes. I told her we'd see her in court. How did she take that? I asked, unpacking his bags. She hung up. Then Amanda texted saying I'm betraying the family legacy. He pulled me close. Little do they know, Grandpa James trusted you with that legacy more than anyone. That night, as we lay in bed, Michael turned to me. You know what really gets me? They thought they could just throw you away, like you weren't family. Grandpa James saw what they couldn't, that you're the one who truly loves this family, this home, for all the right reasons. I snuggled closer to him, feeling truly at home for the first time in months. 3 more days, I whispered. 3 more days until they learned the truth. Just before we fell asleep, Michael's phone buzzed one last time. A message from Patricia. This house has been in our family for generations. Don't let that girl destroy our legacy. Michael showed me the message and we both laughed. If only they knew whose legacy they'd really been destroying all these months. The truth would come out soon enough. And when it did, Patricia and Amanda would learn that sometimes family isn't about blood. It's about who truly cares for the things that matter most. The morning of the court hearing arrived crisp and clear. I wore the pearl necklace Grandpa James had given me on my wedding day. It was my wife's, he'd said. She'd want you to have it. You understand the value of memories, not just things. Michael and I arrived early, finding Julia already waiting outside the courtroom. Patricia and Amanda swept in minutes later, dressed like they were attending a social event rather than a legal proceeding. Their confidence wavered slightly when they saw Julia. "What's she doing here?" Patricia hissed to her lawyer, loud enough for us to hear. Representing the rightful owner of the property, Julia replied calmly, her smile sharp as a razor. Inside the courtroom, Patricia's face turned increasingly pale as Julia presented the evidence. The property deed, Grandpa James's notarized letter explaining his decision, and photographs documenting the unauthorized changes they'd made to the historic home. "Your Honor," Julia said, her voice clear and strong, "my client, Sophie Anderson, was gifted this property by James Anderson 6 months before his passing. He chose her specifically because of her dedication to preserving the home's history and character." Patricia shot to her feet. "That's impossible. The house has been in our family for generations." "Yes," the judge said, reviewing the documents, "and according to these papers, Mr. James Anderson chose to keep it in the family through his grandson's wife, Mrs. Sophie Anderson." Amanda burst into tears, but they weren't her usual manipulative sobs. These were tears of genuine shock as her perfectly planned future crumbled around her. "The property transfer is legal and binding," the judge continued. "Furthermore, given the unauthorized modifications to this historic property, Mrs. Anderson would be within her rights to demand immediate vacancy." I stood up, my voice steady. "Your Honor, I don't wish to remove them immediately. I'll give them 30 days to find new arrangements." I turned to Patricia and Amanda. "But the renovations stop now, and the rose garden will be restored." The judge nodded approvingly. "A generous offer, Mrs. Anderson. I suggest you take it," she added, looking at Patricia and Amanda. Outside the courthouse, Patricia finally broke her shocked silence. "You planned this," she accused, pointing a shaking finger at me. "You manipulated James, turned him against us." "No," Michael said firmly, stepping forward. "Grandpa saw exactly who everyone was. He saw how you treated Sophie, how you valued appearance over substance. He made his choice, and it was the right one." Back at the house, our house now, truly and legally, Michael and I stood in the entrance hall. Despite Patricia and Amanda's changes, I could still feel the warmth that had first drawn me to this place. "Where do we start?" Michael asked, looking around at the modern fixtures that had replaced the antique ones. I smiled, pulling out a folder. "Actually, I have all the original blueprints and photos of how everything used to look. Grandpa James gave them to me last year. He said someday we'd need them to restore the house to its true glory." Over the next month, as Patricia and Amanda grudgingly packed up and moved out, we began the restoration process. The contractors carefully removed the modern additions, uncovering the beautiful historical details beneath. Each day revealed another piece of the home's soul, temporarily hidden but never truly gone. The rose garden was my first priority. I had cuttings from the original plants, carefully tended in my apartment over the past 6 months. Grandpa James's wife had documented every variety in her garden journal, which he'd entrusted to me. "You'll know when to use this," he'd said with a wink. On the day Patricia and Amanda finally left, Michael found me in the library, which we were returning to its original state. "No regrets?" he asked, wrapping his arms around me. "None," I replied, looking around at the room that would soon house books again instead of ring lights and cameras. This is what Grandpa James wanted, someone to love this house for what it is, not what it could be turned into. That evening, as we sat on the porch watching the sunset, a car pulled into the driveway. It was Julia, carrying a large box. "Found these in my attic," she said, setting it down. "Grandpa James left them with me for safekeeping. Said to give them to you once everything was settled." Inside were photo albums documenting the house's history, and at the bottom, a letter addressed to me. "Dear Sophie, if you're reading this, you've proven me right. You fought for this house the right way, with patience, grace, and determination. These albums show the house's heart and soul through the years. Add your own chapters to them. Make new memories, and remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply proving someone right about you. Love, Grandpa James." I wiped away tears as Michael hugged me close. Through the window, we could see the first blooms appearing in the restored rose garden. Sometimes I realized coming home isn't just about returning to a place. It's about honoring the trust someone placed in you and proving that their faith wasn't misplaced.